I'm Jimmy DeMetro, and with me is my Hellenic Film Society colleague, Eva Mallis, and together we have the pleasure of welcoming filmmaker and writer Sonia Liza Kenterman. We're in New York, Sonia is in Athens, and we're very, very happy, Sonia, to have this opportunity to connect with you and speak with you. Sonia was born in Athens. She studied sociology at Pantheon University and began her film studies at the Stavrakos School in Athens. She earned a master's degree in filmmaking with distinction at the London Film School. And her first short, Nicoletta, which captured the horrors of the Greek Civil War through the eyes of a very, very young child, that film went on to win 14 awards and was screened at more than 36 festivals worldwide. Her second short film, called White Sheet, also had very, very wide festival distribution. Sonia has just completed her debut feature film called Tailor. The Greek title is Raftis. This is a story about a tailor approaching middle age. He's been living sort of in a time warp with changing fashions. What he has to sell, custom suits for men, is less and less in demand. And so it reaches a point where his business, his store is being repossessed, and he's got to take some action. Question is, will he be able to effect change in his life at this point in his middle age? We had the pleasure of showing Tailor at the New York Greek Film Expo, where it was very, very nicely received. The audience embraced the film, and we received just wonderful comments from everyone who saw it. Welcome, Sonia. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to speak with you. It's a pleasure to see you.
Thank you, Sonia, for joining us. Yes, our audience was just so enamored with the story, the way you told the story, the way you filmed the story. It was really exceptional on many levels. I've seen it several times myself. So we want to just know everything about how you went about producing this film. How does something like this even happen? Where did you begin the story? I mean, what was the inspiration for the idea, and how long did it take to write a screenplay?
Thank you very much, first of all, for inviting me in this Q&A. And I know that you had worked so hard to get us all the filmmakers in New York.
Oh, that's particularly frustrating with the band.
Yes,
we would love to have had you introduce your film. Of course, that couldn't happen this year, but we'll make up for it. I'm sure there's a lot of good things to come from you in the future.
Absolutely.
But it's actually amazing to be able to share the film in a real audience, even though the filmmakers couldn't physically be there. It was amazing to see these photos of full audiences.
Yeah.
So anyway, to answer
things were not normal for us, even this time around. But we did our best, and I think people who attended very much appreciated the effort, and it was good to start reliving our lives again. And this was a small step, but a step forward.
Absolutely.
Certainly. So I think both Eva and I, and I'm sure the people listening in, we want to know, what was the inspiration for the film? How did this idea occur to you? And it strikes me as a story that a young person wouldn't necessarily be concerned with. Someone facing a middle-age crisis. Somehow young people think only of young people, I think. Tell us how that idea generated and how you proceeded.
Yeah, well, when we started writing the script, Tracy and me, we were Greece was amidst the financial crisis. So thinking about what the subject of my next film would be, I wanted to reflect on what was happening in Athens and in Greece at the moment. So the initial idea was really to talk about the changes in the society and the economical changes and how it had affected everyday life in people. And at the time, it was also, that's the most personal connection and the triggering point of the script, that one of my cousins was losing his locksmith shop in the center of Athens in Omonia Square. All the Greek Americans know where that is. So it's a business that his father started in the 60s and was very prolific. But of course, decade after decade, it started really running down and just, declined.
Decline, right?
Yeah. So that was the starting point. And then both Tracy and I were very intrigued and inspired also by dying crafts which are disappearing. So we chose tailoring, and I think that really changed everything, or let's say shaped the story and the character a lot.
Did you mentor with a tailor? Did you spend time in a tailor shop? Did you actually try to cut a pattern and sew something? I'm just curious. And use the sewing machine?
Learn how to sew. Unfortunately, the actor did. He learned how to sew very well and how to use different type of sewing machines. But I did spend a lot of time, firstly, with a fabric shop owner in the center of Athens. So, I mean, we picked up this profession because we thought it was fascinating, and that was a whole different world for us to explore, but none of us knew anything about it. So I was just walking around Athens to see even how many tailoring shops are still open and fabric shops. And at the time, there were very, very few. And I met this one fabric shop owner who really followed us throughout the film. I mean, from script stage to training the actor, until he even came to the shooting, just control that we do everything as we shoot and everything looks correct. So
like a tailoring consultant. He was like a tailoring consultant.
Yes, exactly.
And,
I must say that's really one of the strong points of the film, the detail in the cutting, in the sewing, in the sewing machine. It just adds a level of interest, and it makes the film so believable. Not for a minute do you doubt that this man knows what he's doing and cherishes that profession that he's been living with for most of his life. Yeah, very, very successfully done, actually. So you had the script. Now the real problems begin. The financing. What was that all about?
Well, that takes a lot of time. I mean, it's the biggest challenge that I think any filmmaker and artist can ever face, which is waiting, because we were writing very. We were very focused on the writing, and then we had to wait for all the financing to get in place. And when I came back to Athens, it was a time where even ERT, the national broadcaster, was shut down by the government at the time, and well, everything was extremely difficult, and it's like in a pause, basically.
Right. So you have a script, and then you begin to market it. I assume this is how it's done. Yeah, you take your script to potential backers, and you wait for them to look at it, judge it, and see if they're interested. Is that the procedure, more or less? Is that how it goes?
Yeah, kind of. In Europe, it's mostly, I mean, the funding we get in Europe, it's all state funding. So the Minister of Culture of Belgium put in money, and then two different funds, regional funds from Germany. So it's all public money. So therefore, the process is that you have to get the funding from the Greek Film Center and the Greek broadcaster in order to be eligible to apply in other countries. So that's why it can be can be a very long process.
Do you get an agent? Is there an agent that represents you, that helps you through this process, or are you basically on your own?
No, it's the producer who's
okay, does it on your behalf. Okay, that's interesting.
But you know, I always think of this. It is such a long and drawn out process, and you know, directors should be working on other projects instead. It takes so many years to put one together. and the tenacity that's necessary and the sheer determination is so impressive for me. It's not for the faint of heart, let me tell you. I'm sure it takes incredible devotion and focus to get something like this on the boards. You mentioned that this is a co-production, Greeks, Belgium, and Germany, and more we're seeing this in the Greek films today. Just about every major film now that comes out of Greece is a co-production with at least one of the countries, sometimes more than one. So can we talk a little bit about that? Is that obviously there's a financing advantage to it, but does it also broaden the audience base? Is that a correct thought? In other words, by involving more than one country in the financing, you're kind of guaranteed bookings in the countries that are involved. Is that the case, or am I misreading that somehow?
Well, it became a necessity. I think it started as a necessity because the money we would get from Greek Ministry of Culture became so limited that it made it impossible to shoot a film that's not, extremely low budget. So I think it started as a necessity, but then of course it has grown a lot, and partially it's possible for us because of the previous success of Greek films in festivals.
Right.
So somehow I do believe that Panos Koutras, for example, and Lanthimos, they kind of opened the. Well, they managed to travel the Greek films to wider audiences.
Right, absolutely.
So that I think that raised generally a general admiration and also interest towards.
The door opens. So to say.
I mean, there's exposure. There was suddenly exposure where I think the exposure was very limited in the past, whereas other film organizations, whether they be Italian or French, have always had great visibility for a very long time. But for some reason, Greek films, in my opinion, did not have the same visibility. And this is one of the reasons we're doing what we're doing, because we want to engage the public in New York and show them Greek films, whether our audience is Greek or non-Greek. In fact, we try to encourage non-Greeks to attend our films. So now, how long did it take you to actually film this production, and where did you actually? What were you in Greece? Were you on an island? Where exactly did it take place?
It was shot in Athens. The entire film was shot in Athens.
Okay.
And I wanted that from the very beginning because this is the city I know, I mostly know. And it's a city I like also very much. And it was also interesting for me, not only to show the center of Athens, but just as he becomes a nomad around the city, that we just drift around the various areas, of different social classes too.
Right. Just to explain for those who haven't seen the film, when he's being booted out of his shop, he what do we call it? He creates a tailor shop on wheels. Is that the right
a mobile tailor shop? Yeah.
And he travels from neighborhood to neighborhood, at first unsuccessfully trying to sell his wares until an inspiration hits and changes everything. And the change involves the brides of Athens, which adds a whole level of charm and loveliness to the film. Your casting is also excellent, Sonia. So many good actors that work in that film. You just did a beautiful job there, selecting the people. Did you have them in mind while you were writing the script, or are they? Do they come after the script writing? For example, your main character, played by Dimitri Simelos, who's a very distinguished actor. Did you have him in mind when you were writing the role? You did, yeah.
I did.
I think that always works better. When you know who's going to play the part, or you know who you want to play the part. Somehow you're designing it to that individual's talent.
Did he need a lot of convincing, or was it once he read the script, he said, "This is great, I have to do it"?
He liked the idea. I mean, before even reading his script, I knew that he would be interesting because he liked the idea very, very much. And so we met, we had a coffee, and I just narrate him the story. And it was very obvious to me that he will say yes. And I mean, I think he shared a lot in common with the main character. Of course, he's much more organized and not organized. He's much more out in life, and his profession is about, communicating with people. But I think Dimitris understands this character very, very much. I mean, deep down, his heart and the core of the character is something that's familiar to him. And another thing about Dimitris is that he's also a fantastic teacher in drama school. He's a very beloved one. So one of his classes is he asks his student to pick up a profession, a craft, and then they have to follow this craft and build a character around it for a whole year. So I think this script was like, and there you go. It's like, this is your chance now.
So he's putting into practice what he teaches. That's every teacher should do that at some point.
A few of the audience members said to me, well, there was no dialogue within the first few minutes of the film, and you're just watching him, go through his day. What were you trying to communicate in that silence?
Well, as a character, he lives in silence. He has no social life. He has totally self-isolated himself from the rest of the world in the attic of the tailoring shop. So by choice, he has, sheltered his life in there. And the only sounds he listens to is the ones of the sewing machine.
Right.
So this is his companion, and his tools and his craft is not only keeping him alive and it's like on a steady motion, but it's the only thing he has. I mean, there's nothing else he can or wants to do throughout the day. And sometimes when we were discussing with the music composer of like what initiates the music, we both said that it has to be his silence. So he's in total silence, as you say. And then the first thing we hear is the pedals of the sewing machine. And that starts the music. It's like the music really follows this rhythm.
The rhythm, yes.
Yep.
And to me, it's really pointing out the silence that you make.
Right.
I'm glad you mentioned the score because it really stands out. It's a wonderful, wonderful score. Wonderful. Very rare to see it so skillfully integrated. To hear the music so skillfully integrated into what's going on. It's very, very, very strong element of the film. Yeah, very, very good.
So how long did it take to film the production in the center of Athens? And what time of year was it? Because I was didn't appear to be summer, but it was clearly not cold.
So we had 7 weeks of shooting, and we started shooting May 21st, and we finished July 7th. Or 6th, one day before the elections, by the way.
Okay. That's a good time to be out of the streets, I think.
Well, you had time to go to the polls. That's very, very
enough time to go vote.
But I love the way you handled the romance, or the deep. There were romantic moments, just the way one would look at the other as they were pinning the dress between the tailor and his neighbor. And I thought you handled it so beautifully, and also the rage, the suspicion that the husband had and how he handled it. So could you tell us a little bit about that inspiration?
I think for me, and also for the actor, for Dimitris, that was the biggest challenge. It's like to really understand how this man would fall in love, as silly as it sounds, because it seems that it's almost looks like he had never had an affair in his life. And he's a bit childlike in a sense that his best friend is really an 8-year-old girl. So to me, the way to fall in love with this woman was really through their craft,
Mhm.
and because they both give each other recognition.
Yes.
So he's lacking of recognition from his father, and she's lacking recognition from her husband.
Mhm.
So it's like a story of empowerment for these two characters.
And mutual respect. They had tremendous respect for each other
Yes.
and their abilities. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course, it's a very lovely and gentle
Mhm.
connection that is formed
Yes.
between them.
Yes.
And it's
And
somehow
collaborative. It was very
perfectly
collaborative,
in
which I
tune,
thought was great.
perfectly in tune with the rest of the movie and the style of the filmmaking. Tell us now a little bit about the distribution of the film. I know the film is playing widely. I keep reading. I know it's in Germany as we speak. I think I remember reading it's in Austria. I was surprised. I don't know why. I shouldn't have been. That it's been quite successful in Japan. I think you're in the 4th week of the run there.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that. Are you traveling? I know you're traveling a little with the film. Are you going from country to country, or what is that experience like?
Well, I had a very interesting tour in Germany. So I had the opportunity to spend a month and a half in Germany. And along with the distributor, we literally traveled every single city. I mean, like crossing Germany always for different premieres. So for me, it was the first time to actually have so much experience with the audience, because we had a premiere in Tallinn, which was great, and we managed to be there in November 2020. But then I never could know what the reactions of audience are. And that's the biggest, that's something that, the only thing that I felt, not nice about. So it was great. And the film is still in Germany for the 7th week.
Bravo.
And it's out in the cinemas in Austria and Japan. And later on, it's going to be in the cinemas in Spain, in Switzerland, in Taiwan, in Hong Kong, and China. For now, I mean, it can be more, I think.
But you haven't
That's
mentioned
very, very exciting.
Why haven't you mentioned Greece?
Well,
it was out in Greece beginning of June.
Okay.
Distribution started from Greece.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Greek premiere was delayed because of the COVID situation. And
the Greek premiere was June 3rd.
I think the film opened in the summer, which is very unusual in Greece. It doesn't usually the summer season in Greece is repeats or classic films, but because it was such a backlog of good product, they did open the film in the summertime, which raises another question. Of course, the Greek audience is a very, very tough audience to attract to a Greek movie. There's the Greek audiences prefer movies from other countries, and that always disturbs me, because there are wonderful films, wonderful films coming out of Greece, and it seems to me they're underappreciated in their own country, and that's got to hurt a little bit as far as the artists involved are concerned. But how wonderful that your film, for example, is touching so many people in so many different countries. It says something about the universality of the topic, the humanity of the topic. You don't have to be Greek to love the film. It's as simple as that. It's just a fact of life. One of your producers is a lady I don't know very well, but I'm very fond of her. I'm talking about Ioana Bolomiti.
Yes.
And this is very interesting to me, because I think it's an important change in Greek cinema generally. There are now very strong producers, good production companies, and I imagine, I'm sure that Ioana Bolomiti was at your side, providing support and advice. And I think this is a very good thing for Greek films, because it broadens the it broadens the number of people involved who can look at a project. They make sure it stays on track and develops the way it should. Have you heard this? I mean, you've had the experience of working with the company's Argonauts production. You want to talk a little bit about that, Sonia?
Yeah, well, it was great working with them. And the other thing we share in common with Ioana is that we're pretty much the same age. So I think that is also very interesting that generally the new age producers are very young.
Yeah.
And that's also a big change. And there are, of course, many women in production now in Greece.
I think the number of women in the Greek film industry far outnumber the number of women in the American film industry.
I think
America
so, yes.
is still trying to catch up.
So.
Greece is way ahead in that respect.
Exactly.
To what extent is the producer involved in the actual filmmaking, in the production of the film? Does the influence of the producer extend into content, or is it just management of the whole process?
Well, for sure, we had to take a lot of mutual decisions about many things, and I was very lucky from a production side of view that I didn't really have to compromise, and I think that's a pure luxury.
Yeah, well,
And
that's very.
I really believe that I'm very lucky. And that is because of Ioana and Panos Papahadjis.
Yes, who's also it's his company.
So I'm saying that because I feel sometimes that, you have to go into a lot of detail when you really have to cut and compromise a lot of things. And in their case, they, I feel that I had whatever was really, really needed for the film. And there was never a question of compromising in terms of actors and, heads of departments, like who's going to work on the film or the shooting days. And most importantly, on the locations. So we mentioned before that a lot of scenes were shot in the center of Athens. And I think that the producers showed a lot of trust in me by allowing me to shoot on a Monday in Eolu Street, which is the very central area of Athens. So, and the film wouldn't have been the same if we had made different choices.
This is what I was saying. These producers, they know how to choose the talent. And once they choose the talent, they have a degree of trust and faith in their decision. And this, I think, helps the project. And I'm happy to hear you had such a good relationship with the production team on your film, because it's just the whole thing seems to fall into place so beautifully. You should be extremely, extremely proud of your work and of the film. Sonia, I've been following your work, as you know, over a number of years. I was involved in showing both of your shorts in New York. And I was so looking forward. I'm not saying this to flatter you, but the talent is so obvious and the potential was so clear in these films that I was really looking forward to your debut feature. And
I hope I will keep up to your expectations.
You have delivered.
Exceeded.
The film is so sophisticated, so polished. It doesn't look at all amateurish. I mean, this is a well-seasoned professional who's working. It doesn't have the pitfalls. It avoids the pitfalls of a young director's work, and that's to your credit. Obviously, you know your craft, and it shows brilliantly.
That I also had the chance to work with amazing people. I mean, the cinematographer who we worked together on Nicoleta, and he has been reading all drafts. I mean, he has been on board from draft one of
Okay.
Tailor. And
So it is the same. It is the same person as
fantastic
Nicole.
actors and the production designer, the music composer. So it's like being in a very ideal partnership.
Well, I hope you're preparing feature film number 2 and involving all these wonderful people again. I know a lot of directors don't want to talk about their next project, but I trust there is going to be one, and that this time around things will be easier for you as far as financing is concerned, and maybe we could speed up the process a little bit, because you should be working all the time, as far as I'm concerned. That's very important.
Sonia, are you feeling optimistic about Greek or filmmaking in Greece now after this experience? Are you feeling, given the support you've received from producers and the actors, are you feeling good about it? Are you feeling like things are going in the right direction?
Well, I think I feel for sure very happy and optimistic regarding the support from, yes, producers and actors and everybody involved, but I'm not sure I'm optimistic about funding. So I don't think that to make another film is going to make things faster if it's based in Greece. Because, things are still moving quite slowly, unfortunately.
Sonia, I'm just curious, we keep hearing about the concessions that the Greek government has made after long delay to entice foreign film productions in Greece. And indeed, it seems to have worked, because a lot of non-Greek films are being filmed in Greece. Have these measures helped the local filmmakers at all, or is it the outsiders who are benefiting more than the local directors? Have you an opinion on that?
Well, ECOME, this tax
Exactly.
rebate scheme that you mentioned, well, it did for sure help my film and all the films of my year of production. And because we got, a lot of extra funding, even though it was at the end, but it's still very needed and important. Now it has changed a lot. So ECOME, as it was before, it was mostly to benefit Greek productions. Now it's changing, and it's focused a bit more to benefit foreign productions. So if that's going to be better for Greek films or not, that's not yet. We can't see the results of that yet.
I can.
For all the people who work in films, is for crew members and so on, it's definitely good, because huge productions came to Greece for the first time. So I think generally it's a positive thing. Yeah,
good. I just hope they don't ignore the needs of the directors and the creative people as well. Because, as you said, it's absolutely necessary. Funding is difficult in any country, let's face it. No matter where you're working, it's the major problem. But in some places, it's obviously more difficult than not.
Sonia, it's a bit of a silly question, but I have to say it was one of my favorite scenes in your film, when the bride is being fitted and the floor is just covered in tulle. Yards and yards of tulle. I thought it was just so beautiful. How many yards of tulle did you need to do that scene?
A lot.
A lot, but it was also very clever production design from Penelope and Daphne, the two production designers, because they just did it in a way that they could still, save a lot of money to the production.
Okay.
Well, the production values on the film are extraordinary, so they've done a good job. Again, Sonia, I thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to speak with you. You're always welcome by the Hellenic Film Society. We cherish you, and we're just so pleased with the success of your film. We hope that more Americans will get the opportunity to see the film. Somehow this is the toughest market to crack, and I don't understand why. But the film is worthy of being seen, and if there's any justice in this world, it will be seen. I thank you so much, and I'm sure Eva does as well. We wish you the best, continued success, and keep doing what you're so good at doing. Just hang in there. Hang in there. You're
and we'll
wonderful.
bring you to New York as soon as we can.
I hope so. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
We truly missed not having you there at the screening, but spiritually you were with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sonia.
Take care.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yasu, good luck with your next project.
Gracias.